I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised this morning because the weather is so great and maybe the best day of the season, and you have many choices on a Sunday morning what to do with your time, and here you are in a packed sanctuary. That is just, I don't know if the word remarkable, I'm not surprised, but it's just, it's very touching that all of you here and are want to be here. So welcome this morning. And those of you who are visiting, again, a welcome to you. The restoration of Simon Peter. Over the course of his life, he wrote more than 40 books, and if you think you know the answer, you can shout it out. He sold over 75 million copies. His hardcover editions were always about 2 inches thick. Some of my personal favorites: The Covenant, The Source. Oh, you can't answer. Yeah, no, sorry, no. The Covenant, The Source, Chesapeake, Hawaii, Texas, James Michener. My personal favorite was his memoir, The World Is My Home. James Michener made a living writing these grand, historical, wide novels that fleshed out characters, and he traced intricate genealogies and gave careful attention to cultural and family roots, which is very interesting because, ironically, James Michener did not have a birth certificate. It's true. He was abandoned as an infant, and he was raised by a woman named Mabel Michener, who was a Quaker from Pennsylvania. And once James Michener became successful and a famous writer, an anonymous, unnamed relative regularly sent him hate mail, accusing him of spoiling, besmirching the Michener name. He had no right to be as successful as he was, or to write anything, because he wasn't a true Michener. In the final letter from this mean-spirited relative occurred in 1976 after President Gerald Ford gave Michener the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award. And the hateful note, the final note, was short and very much to the point. Still using a name that isn't yours. Still a fraud. Still trying to be better than you are. And it was signed a real Michener. Through the years, James Michener turned that negative into a life challenge, and in his memoir, he wrote that relative was right in all his accusations. I've spent my life trying to be better than I was, and I am a brother to all who wish to do the same. Yeah. Where do we go when we need to be reminded of who and whose we are? Where do we go when we need reminding of where we belong? Now, the church calendar reminds us that we are in the Easter season, and sometimes we get it wrong. We think Easter is simply a day, a Sunday, one Sunday out of 52 Sundays, but Easter is elongated into a season. It's not merely a day, it's not just one Sunday, even though the lilies are gone. Thank you for all of those who took some of the last wilted lilies and hopefully plant them in your yards. Easter's a season. It's an ongoing reality. It's, dare I say, resurrections happen every day. People walk out of real and imagined tombs all the time. Now, in today's reading from the 21st chapter of John's Gospel, there are 7 disciples, some mentioned by names, others not. 7 disciples, and they're 80 miles north of Jerusalem, back in their familiar territory in Galilee, 80 miles north. And they're up there, and while they're up there, they're not crusading, they're not fighting for just causes, they're not befriending the last, the least, the lost, the lonely. They're not carrying on in any way or in any fashion the ministry that Jesus started. They went back to Galilee to assume the life they once knew. They went back to Galilee not to proclaim anything, but simply to catch fish, because that's what they knew what to do. Now, that hardly suggests to me a committed, fearless, let's change the world for the better, let's be this coalition for justice that we can start. No. They go back to what they know best, fishing. I would suggest it's a posture of resignation. They return to the old routines. They go back to the life they once knew and hope to live again. Maybe Jesus rose from the dead. Maybe the tomb was empty. Maybe Jesus had some like appearance in the upper room, but we have fish to catch. Let's stick to what we know best and do it well. And then the story continues in John chapter 21. Jesus appears along the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and in the course of the night's events, he asks Peter 3 questions. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And each time, all of which triggers, I think, in Peter's mind the night of Jesus' arrest, when 3 times Roman officials and those who were around the campfire said to him, "Aren't you with this Jesus? Don't you know this man? Aren't you one of his disciples?" And 3 times Peter swears, up, down, sideways, "I never knew the man. I don't know what you're talking about. You must be wrong." And now, back in Galilee, 3 times Jesus cleanses Simon Peter of his residual guilt and reminds Simon Peter of his calling to feed my lambs, feed my sheep, tend to my flock. Jesus wants Simon Peter on the inside of the circle of his standing, not on the outer fringes. Jesus is taking the broken shards of Peter's life and he's putting them back together into a beautiful mosaic. This is restoration of a disciple's life. Restoration. We all have moments and times in our lives when we need, by choice or by necessity, to start over. To start again, to start afresh. We need people in our lives who can help us in restoration. People who remind us that we're more than the sum total of our mistakes. People who remind us that while we may be screwed up, we have power to make it better. People who remind us, I really hurt you, but I forgive. I want your forgiveness. People who look in our eyes without blinking and say, you're the best thing that ever happened in my life. People who will reassure us that even things that don't get better, when they don't get better, will walk alongside you, and be with you, holding your hand if necessary. People who won't flinch at holding our very hearts in their hands and whenever it needs holding. Fred Hamlin, of course, was one of those people, in large part because he grew up in a congregation that very much mimics restoration. This past week, I hunted down some words of wisdom from around the world, around the globe, that sort of inspired me in this work of restoration. If you find them helpful, you might want to put them into practice, make them a part of your daily routine, pass them along to others, perhaps. Here's what I stumbled upon. It doesn't matter how slowly you go, as long as you don't stop. Recovery is not about progression. Recovery is about progression, not perfection. Life is a series of lapses and relapses. And yet there is recovery. The one who moves mountains begins by carrying small stones away. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. I'm just telling you it's going to be worth it. Just because you hit rock bottom doesn't mean you have to stay there. Our greatest glory is never failing, but in rising up each time we fail. Before you can break out of prison, you have to realize that you're locked up. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. Rock bottom can become the foundation on which we rebuild our lives. Hope is a good thing, maybe even the best thing, and good things never die. Every noble work is at first seemingly impossible. Every worthy act is difficult. Ascent is always difficult. Descent is always easy and sometimes slippery. The great thing in this world is not so much where you stand, but what direction you are moving. Action on behalf of life transforms. As we work to heal the earth heals us. Your dignity can be mocked, abused, compromised, toyed with, lowered, and badmouthed, but it can never be taken from you. The work of restoration cannot begin until a problem is fully faced. Jesus is God's way of refusing to give up on God's dream for the world. Write a letter to your vigilante superhero within and tell it what you want it to do. You were not made to tend to the graves of your mistakes because God removed the coffin and backfilled the hole. May all of us open the door when restoration knocks. And finally, this from Father Gregory Boyle, already mentioned this morning. You are so much more than the worst thing you've ever done. May healthy, restorative things happen to you this week in this Easter season. Why don't you give yourself a few moments to think about how that might happen for you?